the Minister of the FCT, Mr. Nyesom Wike, has been meeting with members of his team, and he called for an emergency meeting. Take a listen to what he had to say about the security situation in the FCT.
But all of us are concerned as the Federal Capital Territory that houses virtually every Nigerian. We owe a duty to make sure that this place is safe. We'll do all we can, and we're sure Nigerians who reside here that there's no need for panic.
As the Minister Nyesom Wike, that's what he says. No need for panic. Those are the words from him today, and that gets us talking. The Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kayode, has also been responding to this. He said that he's going to intensify effort to decimate the activities of the kidnappers and stem the tide and the spate of violence in the Capital Territory. Yesterday, we had this conversation. Yeah, those who are kidnapped, those who are being killed. The security situation gets a lot of people worried. My guest yesterday said it's getting worrisome to the point that it will scare a lot of people away from Nigeria's capital. Let's get talking and let's get more insight into what this means. I'm being joined tonight by Dr. Charles Omole, a former National Security Advisor to the Speaker of the House of Reps, a member of the Presidential Working Group on Police Reform, the Director General, Founder, Institute for Police and Security Policy Research. He's a lawyer and the National Security Reform expert. Dr. Omole, thank you so much indeed for coming tonight.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks.
What is the problem in the FCT?
Well, the problem in the FCT, I think, is a problem across the country. I think FCT has been kind of insulated, I think, a little bit from some of these problems. So the trend started actually about a year ago, so that the sort of gradual increase, and it started purely from the outskirts of FCT, and now gradually they're moving in, being emboldened. The problem is a problem that reflects the insecurity across the country. And I think there are solutions that the government can sort of implement if that is...
I'm curious though, Doc, to see that there are Chinese inscription on some newly mounted poles which had some devices on it, and I imagine maybe they are CCTV cameras, but up to today we've not even been able to solve the redo of the CCTV cameras that Nigeria spent millions of naira on, and these are the kind of scam and scandal that goes on in this country. And I see those Chinese installed. I thought those were CCTV, aren't they?
Well, no, some, I mean, the ones now tend to be more of traffic lights and traffic islands. Now, the issue of the CCTV, I remember I was part of a delegation that went to China a few years ago. That's under the Jonathan presidency. And the issue of the CCTV project was raised. You know, the control room for the CCTV was installed. The cameras were installed. The last phase of it, which is to launch it, everything just melted away. And, you know, I don't want to go into some details about that, but the point is that it's a normal Nigerian problem that made sure that CCTV operation did not work. And then, of course, people started stealing the cameras all across FCT. So it's going to be, so it's money wasted, really. I mean, if it's to be done again, it has to be done and launched and implemented all in one go.
Are you saying that there is no place where we can monitor the city from a control room in terms of policing?
No, well, like I said, the cameras are not there. You know, there are certain cameras in certain key places, but as a citywide coverage, there's none.
Or a nation's capital of a country that is this big?
Well, I mean, it's a valid question, but I'm certain this new administration will see the need to make that happen, and it's doable.
Because how do you want to police a city this big, that is the nation's capital, perhaps in sub-Saharan Africa or on the continent? I'm not sure any other country on this continent has as big a capital city as the FCT.
Well, you see, the challenge really here is, when we talk about security in Nigeria, the problem is everybody looks at security agencies, the military, you know, but security is a whole of nation, whole of government business. For example, there's a need for the government, I said it in another place before, there's a need for the government to consider introducing what I call security impact assessment of its policies. For example, you go to a particular slum, there are, find the houses are there, the houses there are illegal houses, but 200 people live there. You demolish it without providing any alternative for them. The question you ask yourself is, yes, have you acted legally? Yes. What happened to those 200? How do they feed? How do they survive? There is undoubtedly some of them will take on criminality. So if you do assessment, so every policy has its own security impact. And unless a sort of security assessment regime is put together, where every ministry, every area of government know they are contributing to either security or insecurity by their policies, then that's when everybody will wake up to understand that it's not just about the police or the military, it's all our duties to be responsible for security.
If you look at it, I'm still very curious on why things have gotten so bad in the FCT, and where you are strong as your strongest link, and Abuja seemed to me to be the fortress of this nation because that is the seat of power. Everybody wants to protect the city. All security agencies want to protect the city. For you, in your mind, the kidnapping that we see, the banditry that we see, the activities that we see, and the fringes of Abuja, immediately, how do you think we can start tackling it?
Well, the number one problem which we are seeing in Abuja, or like I said, as exists in other states, is number one, lack of quick response capability. A very good way to explain this so that Nigerians will understand is, imagine you have your the fire brigade. All the fire brigade workers they are part-time cashiers in banks. And then when there's fire incident, their commander will now start calling them around from all the banks to say, okay, quickly go to the fire station, there's a fire. Everybody understands that if you do that, by the time they get to the house that is on fire, the house will be burnt down. That's exactly what we have. The police do not currently have what I call a standby ready force to intervene in any major crisis. They tend to do mop-up operation, which is called this DPO. How many men do you have? Okay, I have 2. How many men do you have? The mop-up men.
What should be the standard? At what distance and what perimeter and at what timing do you think in a civilized environment where policing is advanced should happen? How should it happen?
That is the beauty of the current IGP. One of the things he said when he became IGP was the setting up of the Special Intervention Squad. The whole idea of the Special Intervention Squad is that they will not be conducting any day-to-day policing. Their job is to train or go on a mission. The training or go on a mission. Therefore,
so it will be an elite tactical force.
Absolutely. And the idea is to have a 15 to 20 minutes response time from when they call them to when they're on site. But to set up that Special Intervention Squad, a lot of resources are needed. I'm not quite sure whether the IGP is getting those resources. I'm sure he will get it eventually, but the government needs to back that idea. The solution to our insecurity right now is that Special Intervention Squad. You see, I've been doing some crime mapping, of all the activities happening in the country over the last 2 years. For the major terrorist incidents, on average, it's taking 2 hours, which means from the terrorists move from their base to whichever village or whatever it is they want to conduct their terrorism, the time it takes them to conduct the terrorism, the time it takes them to then disappear. On average, it's taking 2 hours. Now, that means in 2 hours, we couldn't raise a response team to intervene in that particular place. That shows you the major problem is we need a quick intervention squad that their job is, there's a problem here, 15 minutes they are there.
But I do not agree with you on one note. And you ask me why. This might sound like a joke, but it's not a joke. There are quick rescue and response team in Abuja everywhere. Every 10 minutes that you travel after 7 p.m. in Abuja, you have police stopping you at checkpoint. Those are people that are supposed to be to go and because I'm wondering you go from Wuse Zone 2 to Wuse Zone 4, which is less than 5-7 minute drive. You see 2-3 checkpoints there, and I'm wondering what are they doing when they're actually supposed to be responding to kidnapping happening in the fringes of Abuja.
2 things from what you've just said. Number one, You see, police have different squad and teams. It's not all police officers are trained to conduct every operation. So because you are in Maitama police station doesn't mean you can be sent to now go and intervene with terrorists if you have not been trained to do so. So that's number one. Have those who won't be trained. Number two, there's also the displacement theory. If there are many checkpoints because we want to sort out insecurity in this area, if you now remove them to go and intervene when there's terrorism, what happened to the criminals you are trying to stop here? So you're going to just have a problem where, yes, they will go and intervene, and then there's more crime where they left.
I imagine that you don't set up a checkpoint until you have a notice of an imminent crime, of a crime that has been committed. Because what is a checkpoint anyways?
Well, I mean...
because they never find anything. At least as far as I know, they never... But I mean, apart from flashing the torchlight in your face, and some of us who have eye problems, they almost want to make us to run into them at night. And the question is that you see all the vehicles at every point. I'm not sure if those vehicles are even filled enough for them to move around.
Yeah, if you ask me whether the checkpoint system is effective, my answer is no. It's not effective. And I don't think there's any intelligence really behind it. I think probably what they're just doing is looking at the map of the city, look at major gateways, major checkpoints, and access routes, and they're just kind of
because I imagine we have more serious problems, and you are deploying these men and with arms and ammunition just to do the barest minimum job. I mean, where do we need all of these things? People are robbing people in their homes at night. Yet there's some people who are huddling out and checking a checkpoint. It's annoying. And when you wake up in the morning, you see that someone has been kidnapped. But yet some people are busy checking people's vehicles when there is no crime that is imminent. It's infuriating, isn't it?
You see, the problem is this. We have about 310,000 police officers. I mean, research has shown that about 180,000 of them are not actually available for frontline policing. They're doing VIP protection. Now, the problem here is the mobile police unit was set up as a fighting force of the police. They're the ones that do all the hard work, and they're given special training for that purpose. I think there are roughly about 60 to 70,000 officers in the mobile police unit. But the problem is, starting from about 2006 onwards, many politicians and, of course, VIP started requesting mobile police officers as personal guards.
That's carrying their handbags.
That's not their job. And that's part of what this IG is trying to treat by saying Special Intervention Squad will mop up the mobile police away from security duties, replace them with the Special Protections Unit, which is set up by the police to protect VIPs. But, I think maybe there's a bit of bragging right by some people saying, I have a pole, guarding me. I don't know, because they are better trained in terms of the hardness of their training. But they're the ones that are supposed to be doing this frontline policing work, but they're doing security duties. So what this IG wants to do is move them away from security duties, replace them with Special Protection Squad, which is their duty, and then retrain them very quickly for the purpose of this Special Intervention Squad Act. And they'll be located in every state of the Federation.
So, I mean, this calls for us now to look inward and say, okay, if crime rate, as Beacon Consulting led by Kabiru Adamu's team released a report, and it showed that November and December last year, there is the graph went up like that, and terribly, if a report is shown, it might be terribly gone up higher than what we saw in December. Crime rate and violent activities went higher in the last 2 months of 2023. I'm worried of what the figure will say in 2024 January. How do we then start bringing this figure down and bringing some kind of confidence in residents of Nigeria?
The solution to that is not kinetics, it's economics. You see, when I said that every area of government needs to do security impact assessment of their policies, that's what I mean. There's no point the armed forces killing, say, terrorists, and government policy unwittingly throwing more people into terrorism. So when government policy,
social problem.
When government policy serves as recruiting sergeant for criminality, for criminals to come into criminality, then you need to understand that you can't kill your way into peace. So the solution here is, while the armed forces are doing their bit, the wider government needs to now begin to do their bit to make sure economic policy is there to sustain the peace that we seek as a nation. So there's nothing the military can do If more people are being made poor on a daily basis, for example, and many of them are turning to criminality, and you can keep killing people every day, you will just having more people being killed. The solution is all of government approach, which is government have to look at what are the security impact of our policies, and then plan accordingly in a proactive way. And I think generally the government, as well as our security agencies, need to move away from this reactive posture to being proactive. Many of the security problems are foreseeable. You know, I mean, if, for example, the customs wake up tomorrow and say we are tripling the tariff on imported cars, for example. Now, that's an economic decision. Anyone who do assessment of it will tell you that car crime and car theft will go up. So I'm just using that as an example of an economic policy that now creates security problem. So government needs to begin to look at every of their policies, how it's creating security problems.
The approach of these current service chiefs, does it look like it is failing? Because if crime rate is going up, we're seeing more banditry activities. We're hearing the governor of Kaduna talking. We are seeing things in the FCT. We're seeing that kidnapping returned to the Abuja-Kaduna Expressway. These are the tales of years ago that had returned under Bola Tinubu. Are their approach failing? Do they need to re-strategize and go back to the drawing board? Because confidence is fast running away from their fingers.
Well, I think what the current government needs to do, which I think the president actually have expressed the same sentiment, is that we need to put round peg in round holes. The military needs to focus on our external security. We saw recently how the United States, UK, and a few of other countries went to send bombs to Yemen to protect their interest. So many of these, I mean, according to what we know, and that's a fact, many of these criminals actually are not Nigerians. So what stops our military manning operations in Niger, in Chad, in Cameroon? That's the job of the military, external security.
The military
and then
protects the integrity of the Nigeria's perimeter.
Absolutely. And then strengthen the police. That's a key thing.
Increase the number, possibly.
Increase the number.
President Tinubu says he's going to increase the numbers.
That is what needs to be done. But the problem is,
how soon should that be done?
It should be done yesterday. You know, we need, and while you are recruiting, you need to provide more resources to train and to set up that special intervention squad that the current IG wants to set up. It is key. Without that special intervention squad, we can't have a situation where there's a major event, a criminal event going on, and the police are calling around to find out where to find men, and by the time they're able to put 50 officers together, the criminals are already gone.
So you also look at it that, I mean, how archaic our policing system, I mean, either the ones that are being used by the military, how clear is the vision of some of these gadgets to be able to identify criminals such that there are no casualties that we saw, civilian casualty that we saw in some part of Kaduna State, very sad situation there, to the point that police cannot be stretched, that you have them everywhere. But one thing that you can be rest assured is that when criminal activity is happening, in 10-15 minutes duration, they should be able to get on the ground in the nearest and the closest location to that. What do we need to deploy? Is it that we do not have the capacity in terms of area surveillance and in terms of land surveillance?
What we need is effective early warning systems. And the early warning system is a combination of electronic and also human intelligence. I mean, for example, there are systems you can map mount on trees, on poles, that, for example, will monitor a particular highway. And over a few, using AI, over a few weeks, it will give you averages. So, okay, on average, 4 motorcycles, you know, sort of pass this road. Suddenly, if 40 motorcycles are on that road, the system will alert you that this is out of ordinary.
Is NICOM-SAT not effective as satellite for security purposes? I know it might be funny, but I mean, isn't that what we spend a lot of money to host the satellite, to be able to do part of security work?
No, I mean, if you're talking of a satellite where you be able to see real-time picture, that's a very expensive project. Even Americans ration it. You know, I mean, I don't know whether you watch some of these American films where they have to say, okay, we need satellite picture of a particular place, and different sort of agencies are fighting over the time of that satellite. So it's a very expensive project. But I think there are cheaper ways of doing it. Example is what I've just given you. There are tools and equipment that can give us early warning system. And then there can be human intelligence. What stops the police having informants in every ward across the country. For example, the DSS have officers in every local government of this country. So why can't we spread so that
growing up there are police informants that we know.
Exactly.
Growing up, the intelligence unit of the Nigerian police was very effective.
Absolutely.
If they steal a motorcycle within the 5-minute area, be rest assured that police will retrieve it. This was in the early 80s.
Yes.
I mean, it worked. What happened? What went wrong? What can this government do immediately? Because Nigerians, those who have, our heart goes out to them. Those who have lost persons in the kidnapper den, and now it's so bad that Nigerians are now crowdsourcing fund on the internet to rescue citizens of this country. It is a sad tale.
You see, the problem is that kidnapping, if you want to focus on that, has become a business, you know, in this country.
A criminal enterprise.
It's become a criminal enterprise. And there are reports of collusion with some of our security forces, even with, in terms of, I have personal experience of this. You know, of somebody, of one of my friend's brother who was kidnapped in the Kaduna rail, problem, last year, and then they asked for ransom. I mean, we knew all that happened, when the ransom was being paid. But the issue here is that we always be criminal. What emboldens criminals in any nation, in any environment, is lack of what I call a deterrence. If I can steal and I know nothing will happen, it emboldens me to steal even more. But the moment this special intervention squad comes in, you kidnap, you are caught, and you are dealt with. You kidnap, you are caught. It will send a message to everybody else. But right now it's a free for all. But I believe this government is still early, but I think they are saying all the right things. But my issue is, it's time to begin to do some things. I've given an example of Special Intervention Squad, but the IG, he has a plan for it. Is it being funded? Are funds being provided to set up that squad? That, for example, is it. So the issue is no longer talking, is what can we begin to do? So to wrap up what I'm saying, number one, there's a need for more proactive rather than reactive. Number two, there's a need for early warning system, both human and technology. Number three, there's a need for quick response team to intervene when needed. And number four, there's a need for security to become all of government department. Because like I said, you don't leave security to security agencies.
Right.
You leave it to the entire of government to deal with.
Dr. Charles Omale, a former national security advisor to the Speaker, a member of the Presidential Working Group on Police Reform, a DG and founder, Institute for Police and Security Policy Research, a lawyer and a national security reform expert. Thank you so much for those insights tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much indeed. Thank you.